I've played New Vegas for more hours than I'd admit to anyone in real life. When people talk about weird glitches or cursed seats, I usually roll my eyes. I've seen it all: T-posing NCR troopers, invisible guns, quests that soft lock if you sneeze near a trigger volume. But this was different. This wasn't a bug. It felt more like I had loaded someone else's save file by mistake. It started near Boulder Beach Campground. I was wandering around the shoreline, farming lake lurks for meat and crit XP, when I saw it on the compass, a cave marker. Unnamed. Not one I recognized. I've done every DLC, every unmarked location guide. There are no caves over there. The map marker blinked in like a bad video transition. One frame it wasn't there, the next it was. No location discovered, no XP ding, nothing. Just a white door icon on the HUD, waiting for me. The cave entrance was set into the rock like any other, except the closer I got, the more my Pip-Boy map started to freak out. The zoom kept pulsing in and out, like something was messing with the scale. The player arrow wouldn't settle on a direction. The radio tab flickered on by itself, cycling through Mojave Music Radio, NCR Emergency Broadcast, and then a blank, static-filled station that shouldn't exist. I figured it was just the game being the game. I quick-saved and went in. The loading screen took longer than usual. The roulette wheel icon spun, and spun, and spun. Right when I was about to kill the process, it finally popped in. The cave didn't have a name in the corner of the screen. Just an empty space where the location text should be. Inside, the geometry felt wrong. It wasn't obvious at first. Just a slightly too long tunnel, textures repeating in odd patterns, stalactites cutting into one another like overlapping stamps. But when I followed the path and hit a right turn, then another right turn, then another, 3 in a row, I realized I was somehow back at the entrance. Same clutter. Same rock. Same dent in the wall I'd shot out of boredom. I tried again, marking the path with spent shell casings on the ground. After a loop, I'd end up in the same entry chamber, but the casings would be missing. Sometimes a skeleton would be there that wasn't there before. Once it was a raider model. The next loop it was a power ganger. Then a prospector. And then I started recognizing the outfits. A dead Boone, lying face down in the dirt, still in his first recon beret. His inventory matched a build I'd used months ago. Same modded hunting rifle. Same number of rounds. Same dented Sunset sarsaparilla bottle in his pocket that I had picked up as a joke because it landed upright. I never brought Boone here. Not in the save. I backed out and checked the Pip-Boy. The local map was a mess of overlapping lines, tunnels spiraling into a ball of pure ink. My radio tab kept flickering, and through the static I could hear something under the usual Mojave Music Radio jingles, a faint whisper, repeating numbers backward, like coordinates being read to someone on the wrong side of reality. On the 5th loop, I found it. Deep in the cave, past a section where the floor jittered like the collision mesh was fighting itself, was a nightkin. At least, that's what the engine thought it was. Blue, huge, hunched over, but the face was wrong. No eyes. No mouth. No nose. Just a smooth, stretched texture with visible seams where the polygons didn't quite meet, like someone had pulled the default skin over the model and given up halfway. It didn't patrol. It didn't breathe. It didn't idle. It stood in the center of the chamber like a mannequin someone forgot to animate. When I stepped closer, My controls felt mushy, like there was lag, but I was playing single player, offline. The Nightkin didn't attack. It didn't react. It just existed. I circled it. No name floated above its head. No HP bar. When I aimed down sights, the Pip-Boy Geiger counter clicked once. Just once. Then the model unfolded. That's the only way I can describe it. The Nightkin's mesh suddenly flattened, arms snapping out into rigid planes, face peeling open like paper. For one frame, I could see inside it, not gore, not bone, but a black screen covered in white text. The game yanked the camera up to it, clipping straight through. There, in blocky capital letters, was a message. You should not be listening. The audio cut. The radio tab went silent. Even the ambient cave sounds vanished. No dripping water, no footsteps. Just my breathing on my side of the monitor and the tiny hum of my PC fans. Then the game hard crashed to desktop. I stared at the error pop up for a second, shrugged it off, and relaunched. Corrupted save maybe, no big deal. I loaded my last autosave from before entering the cave. Except I wasn't outside the cave. I was in the middle of the Mojave, daytime, clear sky, everything normal. No cave marker on the compass. No strange location on the map. Boone and EDE were beside me, alive, as if nothing had happened. I laughed and chalked it up to mod conflicts. Maybe a bad plugin. I had installed a couple of weird ones just in case and kept playing. That's when the radios started acting up. At first, it was small. I'd switch to Radio New Vegas and hear dead air for a second too long before the next track. Sometimes the music would slow down for a beat, then normalize, like a vinyl turned by a shaky hand. One night, I stopped in Novak and left the game running while I grabbed a drink. When I came back, the Courier was standing in front of the motel room mirror, idle animation looping. Radio New Vegas was on. Mr. New Vegas' smooth voice cut out mid-sentence, swallowed by static. And then, quietly, under the noise, I heard myself. Just a snippet. A single line. Hold on, I'll grab a drink. Exactly the way I'd said it minutes before. Same inflection. Same timing. My voice, recorded from the room. The game has no mic permissions. New Vegas isn't that kind of game. I don't even use voice chat on that PC. I yanked my headset off and muted everything. Hands actually shaking. I thought maybe Discord or some other app was glitching and playing back clips. I closed the game. Checked Task Manager. Nothing. The next day, I launched New Vegas again, more out of defiance than anything. Save file loaded fine. No cave, no odd markers. I tried to trigger the event near Boulder Beach again and couldn't. The compass stayed empty. But the radios kept getting worse. Sometimes, between songs, the static would carry fragments of sentences I'd said days earlier. Complaints about work. Ordering food over the phone. Humming along to a song. All chopped up, rearranged, trailing off. Every time it happened, the Pip-Boy radio tab would stutter, cycling through stations on its own, stopping for a heartbeat on a blank line that would scroll past too fast to tune into. Once, in the middle of walking to the 188 trading post, the radio cut out entirely and a low, crackling whisper slid in. You should not be listening. I haven't been able to find the cave again. But my save icon, the little image on the load menu, keeps changing. Sometimes it's my courier's face. Sometimes it's just the Mojave. And sometimes, for a split second, it's a Nike-shaped silhouette made entirely of black and white text, like the model is a wall of scrolling code I'm not meant to read. I stopped using the in-game radio after that. What bothers me isn't that the game glitched. What bothers me is that, every now and then, I'll be watching a random video on my PC with my headphones on, something completely unrelated, and for a half second, buried under the audio, I'll hear the faint cycling click of a Pip-Boy radio dial. And then my own voice, from some time in the past, asking a question I don't remember asking. Who's listening? I've data mined enough games to know that cut content is usually unfinished models and debugged text, not some forbidden, cursed storyline that devs ripped out because it was too real. But when people started talking on an old forum about an unused dead money ending, I got curious. The instructions were oddly specific. Install dead money. Start a fresh game. Reach the Sierra Madre Vault. Make sure you get there with exactly 0 gold bars in your inventory. No picking them up and dropping them. No touching them at all. Don't bring companions. Don't use console commands to skip. I was half convinced it was just a troll checklist to waste my time, but I did it anyway. I know dead money pretty well. Doing it wrong was actually kind of fun. I avoided the gold bars like they were mines. It felt unnatural to leave them there. The moment I slipped through the force field into the vault proper, something was off. There was no Elijah voiceover. No smug old man taunting me from the speakers. No ticking of the collar. Just the low hum of the vault's power and my own footsteps. The game didn't freeze. It didn't soft lock. The door behind me sealed like normal, but there was no objective update. The vault was empty. Not no enemies empty. I mean completely empty. No stacks of gold. No hologram. Just the vault door and that oppressive, red lighting that made everything look like it was soaked in blood. I checked the quest log. Heist of the Centuries was still active, but the current objective text was blank. Just a line of static. My HUD flickered like the Geiger counter was about to click, then steadied. I walked to the center of the vault, expecting some kind of trigger. Nothing. Then I heard it, a long, slow scraping sound from the ventilation shaft overhead. Not metal on metal. More like metal being rewritten, bent into a different shape without force. It had this awful, wet resonance, somewhere between grinding and tearing. I looked up. The vent grill was bolted on like normal. The sound got closer. One by one, the bolts started to vanish, not pop out, not fall, just blink out of existence like someone was erasing them from the scene. The vent cover sagged, then bent outward. Something slid through the gap. At first, I thought it was a human model bugged to all hell. A pale, humanoid figure, naked, with that sickly dishwater texture the engine uses before diffuse maps load in properly. It dropped onto the floor without an impact sound and slowly straightened up. Its face was wrong. Not monstrous enough, just a slightly uncanny version of my Courier. Same hairstyle. Same scars. Same eye color. But everything was shifted a few pixels over, like a corrupted save where the coordinates of my features got rounded wrong. Then its torso lit up. Not like a glowing ghoul. Not like rats. A red light flared from inside its stomach cavity, shining through stretched, semi-transparent flesh. It looked exactly like the glow that leaks through the cracks in the vault door. The thing opened its mouth. When it spoke, the audio was my voice, pitch shifted down, layered with a faint echo like it was being played back through cheap speakers. I remember collecting these before you did. I tried to move, but the controls were locked. No WASD response. No VATS. No pause menu. The creature began to move toward me, not walking, not animating, just sliding forward in a series of sharp teleports. One frame it was 10 meters away, the next it was 8, then 6, then 4, without any in-between images. As it approached, the screen vignette, vision tunneling in. "You're playing a memory," it said. "Not a history." The vault lights dimmed. The red from the floor vents pulsed in time with its words. "You were not the first courier. You will not be the last. But you may be the one who remembers." I could hear something else under the voice. Scrubbed audio. Echoes of other dialogue lines from across the game. "Yes, man, Ulysses, house," stitched together underneath its speech like a chorus reading from incompatible scripts. The thing stopped a few feet away. The camera snapped into third person, centered behind my courier's head, forcing me to look at the pale double. Its model flickered. For a moment, there were 2 of them. 3. A ring of identical couriers standing in the vault, all facing me, all glowing red from the stomach like they'd swallowed vault doors. Finally, the game crashed. No error. No message. Straight to desktop. When I relaunched and went to load game, my dead money save icon had changed to a red vault door. No courier, no Sierra Madre logo. Just the door. I loaded it. I was back in the vault, standing in front of the gold bars that weren't there. This time, the collar timer started immediately, ticking down from 10 o'clock. I turned to leave. The door behind me was actually open now, leading back to the elevator. I tried to run. I couldn't. My courier wouldn't move. Only the camera responded. I could look around, see the hall, the door, the elevator, but the character was locked in place, like an NPC waiting for a scripted scene. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, bare, echoing slightly off the vault walls. The collar timer kept counting down. 9:42. 9:41. 9:40. Without my input, the camera slowly rotated, like someone gently turning my head. The thing from the vent stood directly behind me, so close its model clipped into mine. Our textures bled together, red light shining through both bodies. The timer hit 9:39, then froze. The creature leaned forward, no animation, no arm movement, until its face filled the entire screen. Every pore, every pixelated defect in the texture stretched across my monitor. In my own voice, it whispered, "You delivered the wrong package." The screen went black. I found myself back at the main menu. The dead money save file was still there. Same timestamp. Same vault door icon. But the name of the save was no longer Sierra Madre. It was a single word. Courier 0. I tried deleting it. The game froze. The next time I booted New Vegas, different day, fresh restart, my entire save list was gone. All but one. Courier 0. Vault door icon. Playtime, midnight. I never pressed load. Now, when I hit continue instead of picking a file, the roulette wheel spins and spins, and every so often, for a single frame, I swear I see a red glow on the edge of the loading screen, creeping in. Like the vault is still opening. Like I'm still in there. Everyone who's played Lonesome Road knows the Divide stone wall. That constant, roiling curtain of brown and red, lightning flashing inside it like the Mojave itself is being shaken apart. On my last playthrough, I noticed something in the clouds. At first, it was just a trick of the eye. Far off, beyond the broken highways and shattered missile silos, I swore I saw shapes. Long, vertical shadows that didn't move with the wind. Hang giants stuck behind the storm. I shrugged it off. Visual noise. The Divide is built to look like madness anyway. But then I started seeing them consistently. No matter where I stood, if I looked toward the storm for long enough, the same tall, thin dark smudges were there. Their positions changed when I wasn't looking. Their silhouettes grew clearer the longer I stared. They weren't rocks. They weren't structures. They were something standing in a storm. Curiosity is a disease in Bethesda games. You see something you're obviously not meant to see. Your first instinct is to break the game trying to reach it. So that's what I did. I turned on Knocklip. I know. Cheating, immersion ruined, whatever. I justified it as debugging. I flew over the cracked trenches and rubble, dragging my ghost body toward the stone wall. Normally, if you try to pass the Divide's boundaries, the game freaks out. Either you hit invisible walls or the camera bugs out and throws you back. This time, the storm simply parted. No big animation. No scripted sequence. The texture for the stone wall just slid out of the way like a bead curtain, revealing a white void beyond it. No skybox. No terrain. Just a pale, endless plain. The loading icon spun for a second, and suddenly the corner text pinged. Location discovered, the Echo Divide. Level. There was no music. No ambient wind. No sounds of shifting rubble or distant detonations. Just silence. The ground under my feet was a flat plane, but not developer gray box. It was textured. A desaturated, low-contrast version of the Mojave dirt texture, repeating in a grid so perfect it hurt to look at for too long. My Pip-Boy map was blank. No local. No world. Just an empty tan screen. Ahead of me, in the foggy distance, something moved. At first, I thought it was Ulysses. The silhouette was right, duster coat, flag on the back, the distinctive slope of his shoulders. He stood facing away from me, staring out at nothing. I approached. When I got within talking distance, the interaction prompt didn't appear. Instead, the figure flickered. Then there were two Ulysses, one beside the other. Then three, forming a line, all semi-transparent, all staring into the white. Their mouths moved, but there was no sound. I edged closer until I could see subtitles appear at the bottom of the screen. Another courier watches. Behind the sky. Through glass, through code. The lines weren't in the DLC. I know his dialogue by heart. This was new. His subtitles stuttered and overlapped, like the game couldn't decide which Ulysses was real. Then, in unison, all of them turned to look at me. Their eyes were blacked out, Not glowing, not shadowed. Just voids. Not you, they all said at once. The other one. Before I could react, the Ulysses clones vanished, leaving only the empty plain. Far beyond where they'd stood, something enormous broke the horizon. It looked vaguely like a death claw, if someone had sliced its model in half and stretched it sideways until it reached the edges of the map. Limbs too long, spine bent into a permanent arch, head cocked at an unnatural angle. It hung midair in a perfect T-pose, twitching every few seconds like it was being rescued over and over. I walked toward it. The closer I got, the more the ground began to glitch. Textures slid away, peeling back like strips of wallpaper to reveal another layer underneath. Not normal dirt. Not rock. Concept art. It took me a second to recognize it. Low-res scans of those early Mojave landscapes you see in behind-the-scenes galleries. Scribbled notes in the margins. Scrap drafts of structures that never made it into the final map. Every step tore another hole in the world, exposing more of that forgotten version of the game. Roads drawn slightly differently. Town layouts that didn't match reality. The T-posed creature loomed larger and larger until I was standing directly beneath it. From below, its body was hollow, no polygons inside. An empty shell. The texture was placeholder gray, save for one detail. Inside its chest cavity was an eye. Not physically attached to anything. Just floating in the void, taking up entire chunks of the model's interior. As I stared, the eye expanded. The model of the deathclaw-like thing warped, stretching into black space. The sky disappeared. The concept art below was swallowed by darkness until there was nothing left on the screen but that I scaled up to fill the entire field of view. It wasn't a texture. It wasn't a sprite. It felt like I was looking at a camera, reversed, like something was staring back at me through the monitor. My Pip-Boy buzzed. The stats screen flickered on by itself, cursor shaking. Then it jumped to miscellaneous. A new entry had been added. Message, return to the storm. This is not your path. You do not want to meet the other couriers. The eye blinked. The game crashed. Back on the desktop, my heart was pounding like I just pulled off some insane boss fight. I told myself it was a mod. A weird quest plugin I'd forgotten about. A creepypasta someone slipped onto Nexus as a joke. I checked my load order. Nothing obvious. When I relaunched the game, everything was normal. Sort of. The divide played out the way it always does. Stonewall static. Deathclaws. Marked men. Ulysses in a silo, muttering about nations and flags and history. No echo divide on the map. No white void. No giant T-post horror. But the loading screens were off. Not all of them. Just some. Instead of tips about weapon jams or Legion territory, I'd get this sentence, distorted and half cut off. The divide is watching. The more I fast traveled, the more often it appeared. Sometimes every other load. Sometimes 3 in a row. The font would flicker slightly, misaligned by a pixel or 2, like it was sitting on a different layer. Then, one night, I was playing half asleep and noticed something I still can't explain. I loaded into the Mojave from an interior cell. Black screen, roulette wheel spinning. The "did you know you can" text faded in. Before it finished rendering, a different line flashed up for a single frame. I had to clip it on my capture software and frame by frame through it later to confirm. For one frame, just one, the loading screen tip read, "We saw you behind the storm, my real first name." That name is nowhere in my Steam profile. Nowhere in the game. It's not my character name. It's not my Windows username. It's not on my Nexus account. I haven't tried not clipping into the storm since. Sometimes, when a loading screen hangs just a little too long, I swear I see something in the blur behind the text. Tall, thin shadows. Standing still. Waiting for me to come back. I wasn't planning to stop at the tops. I only swung in because I needed chips for a challenge run and figured blackjack was faster than hunting geckos for vendor trash. I went to the blackjack tables like usual, ignoring Swank's usual smooth talker shtick, and grabbed a seat. The dealer sitting across from me wasn't one of the usual models. He didn't look like Benny's crew. Didn't look like a chairman at all. He was wearing the uniform, but wrong. Too clean. Too stiff. Like a mannequin placed in a uniform, not someone wearing one. His elbows bent backwards slightly, hyperextended like broken ball joints. His eyes were wide open, white and glossy like someone forgot to color them in. When I sat down, he didn't speak. Didn't do the standard voice line. He just dealt. His movements weren't animated, they were teleported. Cards just spawned in front of him, snapping into his hand or onto the table without transitions. A soft tap sound played every time, but slightly offbeat, like it wasn't synced to anything. I assumed it was a mod conflict. I'm used to New Vegas doing New Vegas things. Then he whispered. Not the typical place your bets line. Not even a voice line. Just a faint sound under the casino music. Like someone breathing too close to a microphone. I leaned in, thinking maybe my headset was bugging out. That's when I realized he wasn't whispering game dialogue. He was whispering numbers. 2, 12, 15, 21. They didn't match any card values on the table. Then he whispered, 20, 10, 2, 5, 1. My blood went cold. Those were the digits of the exact date and month I installed the game. In order. The dealer placed another card. Perfect blackjack. Again. And again. His hands never needed reshuffling. His stacks never changed height. He just kept drawing perfect 21s no matter what. After the 5th round, the whispering changed. He started speaking dates I didn't recognize. Birthdays I didn't know. Years I hadn't lived. Numbers spoken too slowly, like he wanted me to memorize them. Then, in a tone that felt like static scraping inside my skull, he whispered, "And the day it ends." I clicked stand. The dealer stopped moving entirely. Slowly, he placed his next card face down. It wasn't textured. Just a white rectangle with corrupted, rainbow streaks where the image should have been. Like a texture file overwritten by junk data. The moment it touched the table, every sound in the tops cut out. Music. NPC chatter. Footsteps. Total silence. A single word crawled onto the card's surface, like text being typed on a terminal. Ante. The dealer looked up. His untextured eyes widened, the glass replaced with pitch black holes. The model twitched and snapped its head into a perfectly neutral angle, staring straight at me. The game froze. My mouse couldn't move the camera. The keyboard didn't respond. In the silence, I heard something behind me. Not in-game. In my room. Someone knocked on the wall behind my desk. One soft, deliberate tap. Like a knuckle tapping drywall. The game unfroze, just long enough for the dealer model to tilt its head slightly. Then the screen went black, crashing the desktop. When I reloaded the save, the blackjack table was empty. The dealer model didn't exist. The NPCs used the table like normal, placing bets and making idle comments, but nobody sat in the dealer's spot. I tried for hours to get the glitch to happen again. It didn't. But that night, as I was lying in bed, drifting off, I heard it again. That same exact knuckle tap on my wall. Right behind where the dealer's head had been on my monitor. It started at the Mojave outpost. A Brahmin wandered near the fence, normal enough, but something felt off. It wasn't the model. It wasn't the texture. It was the way it stopped grazing whenever I looked at it. Not it walked away. Not it moved and reacted. It just froze mid-animation, as if someone paused it. I scrolled my scope over it to get a better look. One of the Brahmin heads snapped around instantly. No neck movement, no in-between frames, just a hard pivot to look directly into my scope. The pupils were too small. The eyes too focused. The other head kept grazing, oblivious. I lowered my rifle. The Brahmin snapped back into animation like nothing happened. Okay, weird, but New Vegas is full of jank. Hours later, near Nipton Road, I saw it again. Same Brahmin. Same markings. Same slight limp in the left back leg. This time it wasn't grazing. It was standing perfectly still, facing away from me, about 200 feet off. Just standing. Waiting. I approached. The moment I got close enough to inspect, the model blinked out of existence. Just poof, gone. That night, I made camp and slept. When I woke up, my Pip-Boy lit up with something I've never seen before. Companion added? I checked the companion wheel. There was a blank icon. No face. No name. Just a silhouette that vaguely resembled a four-legged creature. Selecting it did nothing. But over the next 2 minutes, my Courier's limbs took a tiny amount of damage, just chips of HP every few seconds, like something was kicking or nudging me. I checked the ground around the bedroll. Footprints. Single hoof prints. But not spaced like a quadruped. These were spaced like biped steps, 2 feet, each shaped like a Brahmin hoof. It was walking upright. Later, I checked Novak for repairs, and in the corner of the Dino gift shop, I saw the Brahmin again. Facing the wall. Perfectly still. Its shadow cast incorrectly, too tall, too thin, like a human silhouette in a costume. I scoped in on it. Both heads snapped around with the same instant, jerking movement. And for a moment, just a frame, I saw something inside both throats. Human teeth. The Brahmin blinked out of existence again. Eventually, after a few play sessions, the companion disappeared from the wheel. My HP stopped draining. I figured maybe the ghost cow finally despawned. Then I checked old screenshots I'd taken of my Courier. Every one of them had something in the background. Far away. Out of focus. A Brahmin. Standing upright. Watching. Behind Novak, past the last house and the broken fence, there's a little patch of dirt and weeds. Normally empty. But one night, while exploring with a weather mod active, I saw something flicker in and out of existence when I turned too fast. A well. A small stone well with no bucket, no rope. It wasn't textured correctly. It flickered between high-res stone and some ugly placeholder gray. When I approached, the flickering stopped. Inside the well was water, perfectly still, perfectly reflective. Too reflective. Fallout water has ripple effects, distortions. This didn't. Looking in, I saw my Courier's reflection. But it wasn't following my movements. While I leaned closer, the reflection stood perfectly still. And it had no pupils, just two hollow, black circles. I moved left. My reflection smiled. Wide. Unnaturally wide. Teeth too numerous, too sharp. I stepped back, and the reflection tilted its head, still smiling. Its mouth moved silently, lips forming words I couldn't hear. Curiosity won out. I dropped something into the well. A coffee mug. It sank instantly, no splash. The reflection nodded. Hours later, in the RepCon headquarters, I found a coffee mug on a table next to a skeleton. Not lootable. Not interactable. Just placed perfectly perpendicular to the table edge. Exactly like the one I dropped. Over the next few days, I tested the well. I dropped ammo. I found a single round positioned on the pillow of a dead scavenger. I dropped a sensor module. I found one sitting neatly atop a grave at the 188. Then I dropped something stupid. A human arm I'd looted off a fiend. The reflection's smile widened, twisting unnaturally, stretching past where cheeks should tear. Its head tilted almost 90 degrees. The next time I slept in-game, I woke to faint breathing sounds behind me. Not enemy breathing. Human. When I turned around, nothing was there. But later that day, while passing Sloan, I noticed something disturbing. One of the powder gangers was missing his left arm. Not shot off. Not blown away. Just missing. A clean, impossible absence. I stopped using the well after that. But sometimes, when I pass behind Novak, I see the flicker out of the corner of my eye. And if I look into puddles, or glass, or any reflective surface, I swear my Courier's reflection moves a little slower than I do. Like it's waiting. Near Cook's old territory, there's a ruined overpass with fiends scattered everywhere. Standard stuff. But one day, while clearing them for XP, I noticed a weird one. His texture wasn't loading. Gray body. No clothes. No tattoos. But his weapon was perfect, a fully detailed LMG, pristine, like a dev room asset. He didn't have a name. Just Fiend. The fight started normally, except for one thing. He never reloaded. LMGs chug ammo fast, but his belt never shortened. The barrel never glowed. He just kept firing in total silence. No gunshot sound, only the impact effects when bullets hit the world. I ducked behind a rock. He stopped firing. Then I peeked around the corner. He froze. Not took cover. Not lost sight. His model locked perfectly still the moment my crosshair touched him. I moved the crosshair off. He instantly resumed firing. He was only active when I wasn't looking at him. Like a weeping angel with a machine gun. I fast traveled away, thinking he'd reset. But when I arrived at the Strip North gate, he was standing there. Far down the road. Gray. Silent. Firing at me with invisible bullets. I pulled out a sniper rifle, zoomed in. He froze again. I fired, and the model disintegrated, but not into gore. Into white wireframe triangles, like the collision mesh falling apart. The pieces didn't hit the ground. They just vanished midair. His body left behind one item. Missing weapon name. Weight 0. Value 0. Ammo, infinity. Bad feeling in my gut. I tried to equip it. Game crash. Hard. When I rebooted, the first thing I saw in Good Springs was him. Standing behind Doc Mitchell's house. Firing at me in total silence. Waiting for my crosshair to look away. I don't know what caused it. Maybe a script lag. Maybe a corrupted mesh. But when I entered Freeside one afternoon, the world felt wrong. No NPC chatter. No ambient noise. Not even the usual bighorners snorting in the distance. When I approached the old Mormon fort, the walls looked slightly taller, slightly sharper. I stepped inside and realized instantly that something was off. No followers. No guards. No tents with doctors. No injured NPCs being treated. Every tent flap was swaying faintly, like someone had just walked through. But nobody was there. The ground had no clutter. No beds. No barrels. No crates. Except for one tent. Inside was a single hospital bed with a human skeleton lying on it. The skeleton wasn't in the usual ragdoll pose. It was arranged neatly, arms crossed, skull facing the entrance. A Pip-Boy was strapped to its left wrist. I shouldn't have been able to interact with it. NPC skeletons never have Pip-Boys. But the prompt appeared. Examine Pip-Boy. The inspection camera zoomed in too close, so close the model clipped through bone, showing stretched textures and gaps in geometry. And inside those gaps, tiny text. Not a texture. Actual scrolling text. Log entries. The text described events from my current save. Quests I completed. Items I picked up. NPCs I'd killed. Then the logs continued past the present. Future entries I hadn't lived. Including events where I killed companions I hadn't even met yet. I backed out and ran for the exit. But when I left the fort, Freeside wasn't Freeside anymore. NPCs were standing in stiff T-poses, facing me. Their eyes were missing, empty sockets with dark, dripping textures inside. Every few seconds, when I turned away, their jawbones opened a little wider. I tried to fast travel. The map cursor locked itself onto the old Mormon fort. I was trapped. Only one way out remained, the bed. I went back to the skeleton's tent. This time, I could interact with the bed itself. Sleep 3 hours. Against every instinct I had, I pressed it. When I woke up, everything was normal. NPCs back in place, beds returned, followers wandering as if nothing happened. But my Pip-Boy displayed a new notification. Companion lost, yourself. One night, my Pip-Boy scroller was acting up. Oversensitive. Kept drifting between stations. That's when I noticed a blank slot between Mojave Music Radio and Black Mountain Radio. No name, no icon, just empty space. When I hovered over it, the radio clicked on. A familiar voice spoke. Good evening, New Vegas, or is it evening? Hard to tell from where I'm broadcasting. It was Mr. New Vegas, but not. Slightly deeper. Speaking faster. Too cheerful. At the top of the hour, let's talk about our little courier friend. Seems they spent the day wandering Sloan, shooting a powder ganger in the leg. Clean shot. Cruel shot. I froze. That was exactly what I had done 20 minutes earlier. He kept going. And next, they'll head north. They'll pass a dead prospector by a rock. They won't loot the hat. Shame. It would have suited them. I stared at the radio in disbelief. Then the voice shifted, the tone darkening. But soon, our courier will make choices they cannot come back from. Soon, they will open doors that were welded shut for a reason. And then, well, you know how it goes. Static swallowed his laughter. Most importantly, the voice said, quieter now, they have someone watching. Right behind their left shoulder. Hoping they won't turn around just yet. I paused the game and slowly turned around in my real room. Nothing. When I unpaused, the blank radio station was gone. Removed from the list. But then NPCs across the Mojave started greeting me differently. Good to meet you, one said in Sloan. Heard you on the radio last night. At first, I laughed it off. But I've been hearing faint static when I walk around with my headphones on. Static in real life. And deep under it, someone narrating what I'm doing. Helios 1 is harmless. A little annoying. Some lasers. Some bickering NCR. Nothing creepy. Until the night I saw the tower glow black. Not dark. Black. A beam of pure, light-absorbing darkness poured into the sky like a reversed spotlight, swallowing stars around it. Shadows warped, stretching toward the tower like they were being sucked into it. I approached the compound. NCR troopers were frozen mid-animation. One soldier had her gun halfway raised, stuck like a paused frame. Inside, the facility was empty. Terminals still glowed, but all their text flickered between normal entries and corrupted warnings. 2 suns is too many. The first must be fed. Further up, I found the stairwell leading to the tower itself. Halfway up, I heard a metal groan. Something heavy exhaling. At the top platform, near the focusing array, I saw it. A human figure welded into the machinery. Not tied down. Not strapped. Welded. Their flesh fused into metal supports. Their face frozen in a silent scream, mouth open far too wide, eyes stretched like cracked glass. The model kept flickering between stages of melting like a broken morph target. Behind me, the tower's black beam pulsed. My shadow slid forward on the ground, not following my movements, leading them, walking before me, independent. I turned. There was a second shadow beside mine. A tall one. Long arms. Too many fingers. When I ran down the stairs, the second shadow followed perfectly, frame precise, even when no object could have cast it. From then on, whenever I approached a light source in the Mojave, my shadow would lag half a second too late. And sometimes, it didn't align with my body at all.